What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC 289. We got Amanda Nunes going against Irene Aldana.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another full card breakdown and prediction video. This week breaking down a pay-per-view card in UFC 289. And yeah, it's a solid card. I think it's definitely a step up from some of these Apex cards we've been seeing the last couple of weeks. I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward especially to this co-main event. Charles Oliveira, Beneil, Dariush should be an absolute banger, and some other fights I'm really looking forward to. So before we get started, a couple things. If you guys can first off leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I do appreciate that a ton. Secondly, I'm going to be bringing back the Significant Strike contest, give away some free money here. To enter the contest, first, make sure you leave a like on the video. Second, subscribe to the channel. And then third, comment down how many Significant Strikes you think that Amanda Nunes and Irene Aldana are going to combine for. First place gets $25. If there's a tie, the tiebreaker does go to the person that did comment first. And then lastly, now is still a great time to sign up on DFS by the Numbers. We're in a 13-week stretch here in the summer. We have 4 cards in June, 5 cards in July, and then 4 cards in August. So tons of UFC. Check out that $10 betting tier, which is the most popular option in the middle right there. With that, you get all the stats you see on my Friday and Saturday shows. First notice on all of my bets, my full card breakdown and best bet article where I break down the entire card, give my prediction, the round, the method, the confidence rating, and the best bet for each and every fight. Access to my Discord where all my alerts get sent out, and then my final betting article, which comes out on Friday, where I break down all my tracked bets and give my prelim, main card, and Hail Mary parlay as well. So lots of content that you do not see on YouTube is on dfsbythenumbers.com. Do check it out. Lots of great stuff on there, and it does support me a ton. So other than that, I'll be going live Wednesday. So I'm heading on to a cruise on Thursday, so I'm trying to get everything done before I leave to the cruise. So I'm actually going to tape UFC Vegas 75 and get that out very, very early as well. So I'll be going live a couple times throughout the week, maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday for Best Bet as well. So make sure you do subscribe, turn on the post notifications, because I'll be going live a lot earlier in the week this week, because I will be on the cruise for 5 days. But yeah, with all that out of the way, guys, I say we get into it. And let us start with the first fight on the card. So I'm getting this video out super early. Like, I've never gotten a video out this early. I think maybe once. This bout order is bound to change. I don't think there's a set order yet, at least for these prelims, so bear with me on that. But I have Nassourdine Imavov here going against Chris Curtis to kick off the card. So we got Imavov, who is 27 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach, 12-4, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Chris Curtis, 35 years old, 5'10" with a 75.5-inch reach, 30-10, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. And this is a closely lined fight, as it should be. We see that Nassourdine Imavov opened up -120, currently -130. And then Chris Curtis opened up +100. He is currently +110. So it's kind of funny, actually. Chris Curtis came into the UFC, and I wasn't too high on him, but a lot of people were. A lot of people loved Chris Curtis, the action man. He ended up pulling off some upsets as a big underdog multiple times, and he started gaining a ton of hype. Like, people loved this guy, and now they hate him. Like, everybody seems to hate Chris Curtis. After the Jack Hermanson fight, where he was losing the fight. He flipped him the bird, and people didn't like that. And then after the Gastelum fight, apparently Chris was on Twitter, complaining and all that, and people didn't like that. So people don't like Chris Curtis now, which is very interesting, because he was a fan favorite for a second. I'm kind of the opposite. Like, at first I wasn't feeling Chris Curtis, and now I don't mind him, honestly. I think he's a very good fighter. I think he's a lot better than I expected him to be when he first came into the UFC. I think he's fixed up a ton of holes throughout his game. Early in his career, he could be taken down, he could be controlled. That's not the case no more. His takedown defense is phenomenal. In this matchup, though, I think it's a close fight. I think it's a very close fight. The reason I do lean towards the Nassourdine Imavov side is going to be this reason, and it's a big reason for me. Like, Chris Curtis, the big thing with Chris Curtis is a lot of people say he's low volume, and I don't necessarily think that's true, but what I do think is true with Chris Curtis is that he's a very slow starter. in a lot of fights, like in the Phil Haas fight, a fight that he won by knockout late first round. I mean, he was losing that fight. I mean, it wasn't even close. Haas was just teeing off on him early on. And, the Buckley fight, he lost the first round. The Kelvin Gastelum fight, he lost the first round. It just takes Chris Curtis a little bit to get going. And at this level, it's not going to work a lot of times. Chris Curtis is a guy that he's losing the fight up until he lands a big knockout, right? He's a guy that is going to drop that first round more often than not, and I don't see him knocking out Nassourdine Imavov. Both these guys are next level tough, next level durable. These guys have a combined, 56 fights? Only one knockout loss between the two. Like, these guys are tough. This fight is going the distance more often than not. And if Chris Curtis drops that first round, all Imavov has to do is win one of the second or third rounds there. So I think Imavov clearly wins the first because it's going to take Chris Curtis a while to get going. And then I think the next two rounds are going to be very close and competitive. So overall, I do think it's a close fight, but I got to side with Imavov, who's going to be more active, especially in the early going. So give me Imavov to kick off the card. Give me Imavov to win this fight by decision. And it is a fight that I think is going to play out fairly close. All right, moving on, we have Aoriqileng going against Aiemann Zahabi. We got Aoriqileng, 27 years old, 5'7", with a 69.5-inch reach, 24-9 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Zahabi, 35 years old, 5'8", with a 68-inch reach, 9-2 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So as you guys should know, we are in Canada for this pay-per-view, which is very nice to see. First time we've been in Canada for a while, I believe. And we have a lot of Canadians on the card. And Zahabi, I believe, is going to be the first Canadian here. So we'll take a look at the odds here. Another closely lined fight. It seems like these past couple weeks, there's just a ton of closely lined fights. And this is another one. We got Aoriqileng, who is the favorite, opened at -175, currently -130. Zahabi opened at +150 currently, +110 there. And yeah, I actually like Aoriqileng a decent amount in this matchup. I think stylistically it's a very solid fight for him. Like, for Zahabi to win this fight. So Zahabi, he's a guy that has power on the feet, but he's very, very, very low volume. And I'm talking very low volume. In terms of the numbers, Zahabi's landing only 3.01 significant strikes per minute compared to Aoriqileng, who's landing double that, 6.07. That's a problem for Zahabi. Another thing with Zahabi, he's a black belt in BJJ as far as I'm concerned, very good grappler, very credentialed grappler, but he doesn't use it. I mean, he doesn't use it in the UFC. He's landed maybe one takedown in the UFC. He doesn't really have the wrestling to get it there, or he really doesn't have... he doesn't try to get it there in the first place. So, and even if he does try to take down Aoriqileng, I think Aoriqileng's takedown defense is good enough to keep this standing. Aoriqileng is training at Fight Ready. I like that. He's only 29 years old. We're going to expect improvements. And how about that experience for Aoriqileng? 29 years old, and the guy has 33 fights. You gotta love that. Whereas Zahabi's 35. He only has 11 fights. So, Aoriqileng, the younger guy, the more experienced guy, and the more active guy on the feet. He's going to be the clear minute winner because he's going to be outlanding Zahabi probably 2-1. He's going to double up his strikes because Zahabi's very low volume. And I think for Zahabi to win this fight, he's going to have to do something that's never happened before, and that's knocking out Aoriqileng, and, good luck doing that. This guy, Aoriqileng, super tough, 33 fights, never been knocked out. So I struggle to see Zahabi winning a decision unless, he's Canadian. Maybe he gets some hometown cooking, but outside of some bad judging, I think Aoriqileng should be the clear minute winner here. I don't know whether Aoriqileng knocks out Zahabi or wins the decision. I'm kind of leaning the decision route, just being more active across 15, just doing a little bit more in each round, maybe landing the harder shots in each round. So I'm going to say Aoriqileng wins this fight by decision, and I think it's a good matchup for him here. Really good matchup for him here outside of some robbery stuff going on. But give me Aoriqileng to win this fight by decision. All right, moving on. We have a Steve Erceg who's stepping in here for Matt Schnell, which, by the way, I really wanted to see Matt Schnell get knocked out again, but that is not going to happen. Steve Erceg stepping in here on about a week's notice, a little bit more. So David Dvorak, he is 31 years old, 5'5", with a 68-inch reach, 20-5 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Steve Erceg, he is 27 years old, 5'9", with a 68.5-inch reach, 9-1, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We have no odds, but I'm assuming David Dvorak is going to be the favorite because man, Steve Erceg was supposed to step in and take on Clayton Carpenter, and I kid you not, Clayton Carpenter was like minus 400, minus 350 for no reason whatsoever against Steve Erceg. So the odds makers apparently don't respect Steve Erceg at all, because he was a massive dog against Clayton Carpenter. So I expect him to probably be a dog in this matchup. And yeah, I went and watched the tape on Steve Erceg. Kind of hard to find a lot of fights, but in every single fight I watched, he showed very good grappling. He's very dangerous on the mat. Didn't see a ton of his striking, but I saw him go out there and knock somebody out cold. He has some power. I just think it's a matchup where it's just a little bit too soon for Erceg. It's a little bit too much of a step up. I think people may be a little bit low on Dvorak these days because he went out there. He's on a 2-fight skid, but I mean, look at who he's losing against. Matheus Nicolau. He's losing against Beneil Kopp. Two, very good guys in the flyweight division. Steve Erceg, he's fought some okay guys outside the UFC. He fought, I think, Sunguk Choi, who we saw on Road to UFC, and then he also fought Shannon Ross, who's in the UFC as well. But it's David Dvorak who's just fighting the top guys in the division. Like Beneil Kopp's phenomenal. Matheus Nicolau, I think, is one of the more underrated guys in the flyweight division. So yeah, David Dvorak's fought some really good guys. And prior to losing to Beneil Kopp and Matheus Nicolau, David Dvorak was on like a massive win streak of, I think it was like 13, 14 wins prior to losing to those guys. So yeah, it's going to be a big step up for Steve Erceg, and it's going to be a big step down for David Dvorak. And I'll tell you what, I think Erceg has some upside in the division. I think he's really solid. I really liked what I saw, but it's a tough matchup to take here on short notice against Dvorak, who has very good takedown defense, very good grappling in his own right. He's going to be the better striker here, very powerful on the feet. I love his forward pressure, really hard leg kicks as well. The thing I don't like about Dvorak is the low volume nature of his game. But I still think it's going to be enough to go out there and win a decision here against Steve Erceg. Erceg, his grappling looked very impressive. Like, if he is able to get this fight down to the mat, maybe he has success, but I doubt he's able to take down Dvorak in this matchup. So give me Dvorak, stuff the takedowns, keep it on the feet, and just be the better striker overall across 15 minutes. But I do like Erceg as a fighter, as a prospect. I think this UFC debut is well deserved. I just wish they would have gave him give him Malcolm Gordon, Give him Francisco Figueiredo. Give him, sign Jimmy Rivera back, right? And let Erceg take care of some of those guys. I mean, don't give him David Dvorak, who just got done fighting Beneil Kopp and Matheus Nicolau, right? So I think they are going to go that route after he loses this fight. And he's somebody that he's been on the UFC's radar. Like, the UFC tried to get him in against Clayton Carpenter. I think they tried to get him on the Contender Series as well. So Erceg is definitely somebody that the UFC has on their radar. I think he makes his debut and loses this fight, but I think he has some upside after that. Give me David Dvorak by decision. Moving on, we got Blake Bilder going against Kyle Nelson. Featherweight fight here. We got Blake Bilder, 32 years old, 5'8", with a 68.5-inch reach, 8-0-1, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Kyle Nelson, 32 years old, 5'11", with a 71-inch reach, 13-5-1, and 1-3-1 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds. We got some odds for this fight, and we see that Blake Bilder is the favorite, sitting around minus 195. Kyle Nelson is currently sitting at plus 170, and it's pretty interesting. Blake Bilder did, I believe, open up as a massive favorite. Yeah, he did. He opened up minus 400, and he's now minus 195, which minus 400 is ridiculous, but Kyle Nelson opened up plus 330. He's currently plus 170, and yeah, went and watched all the tape on Bilder, and what I'll say is, a lot of his tape is uninspiring. I don't think he's the most skilled fighter in the world. I think he lacks in a lot of areas. You go and watch all his fights. Like, in all of his fights, he's getting hurt early on. He's getting dropped. He's getting 10-8'd. He's getting taken down. He's getting stuck on his back. Like, a lot of uninspiring stuff in terms of the tape. But this guy has that dog in him. This guy absolutely has that dog in him. You gotta really get him out of there to get him out of there. And nobody's been able to get him out of there. You can drop him, but he's going to be right back up in your face trying to take your own head off. I mean, this guy, Blake Bilder, is as tough as they come, to be honest. I really consider, potentially picking Kyle Nelson here because, in theory, he does have a path. He can wrestle. Blake Bilder can be taken down. He can be held down. for long periods of time. But there's no way I'm picking Kyle Nelson here. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Kyle Nelson. Another Canadian guy, by the way. I guess he could get takedowns here. I just struggle to see Kyle Nelson being able to keep up with the pace of Blake Bilder. The big problem with Kyle Nelson throughout his career has been the cardio. And I can see this fight looking a little bit like the Billy Q fight. And not to say Blake Bilder fights anything like Billy Q. It's just I think the pace is going to be a wild pace here where Kyle Nelson's just going to break. This guy, he cuts a lot of weight. This guy gasses out more often than not when it's a fast-paced fight. And we've seen in his last two fights, his cardio's looked a little bit better, right? Against Jai Herbert, his cardio looked a little bit better because he's not doing anything. Jai Herbert didn't do anything. It looked like both guys didn't want to show up and fight that fight, right? And then in the Doo Ho Choi fight, that was the first fight Doo Ho Choi has been back in a couple years, and Doo Ho Choi was kind of, taking his time, feeling out process. There's not going to be a filling out process in this matchup at all. Blake Bilder is going to get after it early and often, and I think that's the recipe to beat a guy like Kyle Nelson. Pressure this guy, make him work, get him tired, and I think Blake Bilder does exactly that, and I think he finishes him late. Does Blake Bilder get dropped in the first round? Probably, because he always does. Does Blake Bilder get taken down and lose minutes off his back? Probably, because he always does. But, is Kyle Nelson going to be able to get Blake Bilder out of there? No, I don't think so. And as this fight goes on, Blake Bilder is going to take over, and I think he's going to finish Kyle Nelson down the stretch. I'll say third round finish for Blake Bilder. Should be a very fun fight. Typically, Kyle Nelson, especially as of late, has been in some boring fights because I think he's trying to really, fight smart, reserve that gas tank, and rightfully so, he should. But I don't think Blake Bilder is going to let that happen. So give me Blake Bilder to win this fight. I'll say Blake Bilder wins this fight by third round TKO. Should be a very exciting fight here. Blake Bilder is a guy that is definitely worth watching. Oh boy. Moving on to probably the lowest level fight on the card. And I did end up taping this fight, unfortunately. And we got Maria Oliveira going against Diana Belbita. We got Oliveira, 26 years old, 5'6", with a 69-inch reach, 13-6, and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Belbita, 26 years old, 5'7", 68-inch reach, 8-2, 4-1 in her last 5 fights. We got Oliveira as the slight favorite, minus 120. Belbita currently sitting at plus 100. So I want nothing to do with this fight. But in terms of picking a winner, so Oliveira is someone who I had no hope for whatsoever. I was very uninspired with what I saw from her outside the UFC. She was on the Contender Series against Marina Rodriguez, I believe, and she quit in that fight. She was like, no more, I want out. The ref stopped the fight, right? Her takedown defense looks suspect. Her ground game looks suspect. She's a fighter who, honestly, I've been somewhat impressed with, but I think it's because my expectations were so low that, she's exceeding my expectations here. I had really low expectations for Maria Oliveira, but she went out there as a pretty big dog against Gloria DePaula, which in hindsight is kind of funny because why should Gloria DePaula be a big favorite against anybody? But she went out there as a big dog and she looked better. She looked solid. Her striking looked good. She's very long, very rangy. She's not a bad striker, but I do think she has a pretty big hole in her game. And I think that anybody that tries to get the fight down to the mat is going to be able to expose that hole in her game. And that hole in her game is the grappling, the takedown defense, 47% takedown defense on paper. Gloria DePaula was able to take her down twice. And this is a concern. Vanessa Demopoulos was able to take her down twice. I mean, Vanessa Demopoulos ain't taking down nobody. But she was able to get her down. Tabitha Ricci gets her down 5 times. No shame in that. And even Marina Rodriguez got her down on the Contender Series. So she can absolutely be taken down. And that's not really Belbita's game, but she can get takedowns, She has some solid judo, some good throws. Outside the UFC especially, and even outside the UFC, she's not doing it a ton. But I think she's doing it enough to where I think she can go in here in this fight and implement that game plan and get the fight down to the mat. Because I think the striking's going to be close. I think Oliveira is probably the better technical striker, but Belbita just throws a ton of volume out there. Belbita's volume's unreal. Landing 6.43 significant strikes per minute. So she's very, very active on the feet. She can push a pace. I'd like to see that. But I think where she does win this fight is going to be just mixing in the takedowns, getting the fight down to the mat. Even if you get a takedown in a close round, that could seal the round. On top of that, Belbita, Canadian, If it's a close fight, we know who it's going to. Give me Belbita for the win, but not a ton of interest in this one, to be honest. Moving on, we got Miranda Maverick going against Jasmine Jazzidavicius. We got Maverick, 25 years old, 5'3" with a 65.5-inch reach, 11-4, 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Jasmine Jazzidavicius, she is 34 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach, 8-2 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. And Miranda Maverick, as far as I'm concerned, she's the second biggest favorite on the card, but that, of course, could change. So she opened up -225. She's currently -290. Jasmine Jazzidavicius opened up +190. She's currently +250. And I'll tell you right now, those odds scare me for multiple reasons. WMMA fight, right? Jasmine Jazzidavicius, she is the Canadian, for what it's worth. And Jasmine actually has a path to victory here. Like, Miranda Maverick, on paper, her takedown defense is, let me take a look here. Her takedown defense is 44%, but a lot of that had to do with the Blanchfield fight. I mean, you can go back and watch the Blanchfield fight, but it has nothing to do with this fight. Erin Blanchfield would smoke Jasmine Jazzidavicius. So I don't hold that Blanchfield fight against Miranda Maverick. But, she did get taken down by Barber. She did get taken down multiple times by Jillian Robertson. So I think that Jasmine, in theory, who is a solid wrestler, who is very big, physically strong, like, she's going to be a lot bigger than Miranda Maverick here. In theory, Jasmine Jazzidavicius could potentially take down Maverick and win minutes on top. And that scares me when we're talking about -290 on Maverick. But the reason I got to go Maverick is she has so many advantages in this fight. She's going to be 9 years younger. She's going to be the better striker by a mile. It's not even close, and I don't even think Miranda Maverick's the best striker in the world. It's just, I think she's another level in the striking against Jasmine, who was losing striking exchanges against Kay Hansen. Maverick should absolutely be the better striker, and if she is able to keep this upright, and whenever it is upright, she's going to have a massive advantage, in my opinion. Miranda Maverick's the better grappler overall. I believe she's now a black belt in BJJ. So, and she's younger, and she's going to be the one that is more likely making improvements in this matchup, whereas Jasmine, she's 34. She got into the game late. Maybe we could still see some improvements because of that, but I don't think we're going to see as many improvements as we could from Miranda Maverick, who we have not seen in a while, which is another thing to note. We have not seen Maverick in, let's see. Oh, never mind. It's been 6 months, so, which seems kind of long for Maverick, because she was pretty active, but yeah, I guess it's only 6 months, so can't look into that too much. But I mean, Maverick should absolutely, I think she's the more skilled fighter. It's just the thing that scares me is that Jasmine has a path. Like, I could see Jasmine taking down Maverick, winning minutes on top, doing nothing, of course, but just winning minutes, stalling on top. And that scares me a tad. But I'm going to say Maverick, if she does get taken down, which I think she will, she scrambles back up. She's able to keep this on the feet for the most part. Maybe she gets takedowns in her own right. Like, if she's able to take down Jasmine, get on top, I think she has a ton of success. But Jasmine's very big, very strong, very hard to take down. I'm not sure that happens. So I would caution anybody wanting to go out there and lay -290 on Maverick. I think that's pretty ridiculous. But if you're looking for a winner, I think she wins the fight. And I'll say she wins this fight by decision. All right, moving on. We have a absolute banger. I'm really looking forward to this fight. Another Canadian, Mike Malott, going against Adam Fugitt. We got Mike Malott, 31 years old, 6'1" with a 73-inch reach, 9-1 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Adam Fugitt, 34 years old, 6'1", 77-inch reach, 9-3, and he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds, and Mike Malott is the favorite. Mike Malott is the favorite. Opened up around, if I can find it here. Do they have odds? Yeah, so Mike Malott opened up -335, currently -195, and then Adam Fugitt opened up +275, currently +170. So you could watch the entire Mike Malott career in like 10 minutes. I mean, I feel like I don't know much about Mike Malott because, for one, he very rarely fights, and for two, when he fights, he's in and out. But from what I've seen, Mike Malott is very good. I mean, this guy, he's dangerous wherever the fight goes. On the feet, solid striking, solid volume, very good power. He hits very, very hard. And then on the mat, his grappling, just from what I've seen, and I haven't seen a ton of it, but from what I've seen, it looks just very high level. Black belt in BJJ. When he's getting you down, when he's on top, we saw like in the his last fight against Lioness, he was able to submit him fairly easy there, and then somebody took him down on the Contender Series, snatched up his neck 2 seconds later. I mean, this guy's grappling's no joke. And then his striking's no joke, which makes him a very dangerous fighter. I do have some concerns about his defensive striking a little bit hittable. I have some concerns about his chin potentially. We've seen him hurt. We've seen him knocked out before, but it's been a while since he's been knocked out. So yeah, I like Mike Malott quite a bit. Adam Fugitt's another guy that is just a dog. I don't think he's the most skilled fighter, but he's a guy that's going to go out there. He's going to be tough. He's going to take some shots. We saw him take a lot of shots against Morales. I believe in his debut where he took it on short notice, was able to survive to the third round there. But he is very, very hittable. I don't like the striking defense of him. I think Malott should be the better striker, and I think Malott's just going to be better wherever this fight takes place. And in Adam Fugitt's fights, he's typically looking to get the fight down to the mat. And in this fight, I don't think that's the best idea. I just think Malott's going to be another level on the ground. And then I think he's going to be another level on the feet. So I just think that, Adam Fugitt's going to be in trouble anywhere this fight takes place. With that said, though, if this fight does get extended, I still have serious question marks about Mike Malott. This guy has, I believe, 10 fights. I think he's 9-1-1. And all of his wins, all 9 wins come in the first round, and then his loss comes in the first round. So he's been to the second round once, and I believe that was a draw. So yeah, we haven't seen him in the second round in a very, very long time, and quite frankly, I don't think we see him in a second round in this fight. But if it does get extended, if Mike Malott does get tired, that's when Adam Fugitt could kind of take over and finish the fight in his own right. So I'm going to take Mike Malott to go out there, get an early finish, whether it is a knockout, whether it is a submission, really whatever Mike Malott wants. But if this fight does get extended, if Fugitt's able to hang in there, hang tough for 5 minutes, this fight could look completely different in the second round. But give me Mike Malott. I'll say first round knockout for Mike Malott. The guy hits like a truck. Should be a very, very fun fight there. All right, moving on to another very fun fight. I mean, this could potentially be fight of the night if Charles Oliveira, Beneil Dariush wasn't on the card, but this could be in contention. We got Dan Ige going against Nate Landwehr. We got Dan Ige, 31 years old, 5'7", with a 71-inch reach, 16-6 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Nate Landwehr, 35 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach, 17-4 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. And Dan Ige opened up -240, currently -250. Nate Landwehr opened up +205, currently +210. And man, y'all MMA fans switch up so bad. How many people were on Damon Jackson against Dan Ige? Like that was wild. Dan Ige was only like -120 against Damon Jackson. I think that's hilarious. Like people were really writing off Dan Ige, and now all of a sudden he's -250 against Nate Landwehr. Like I'm not sure what's going on here. So just a big change of odds there, because I think Nate Landwehr would probably knock out Damon Jackson. I'm not high on Damon Jackson at all. But regardless, this is a close fight. I mean, I don't really understand these odds. I get that Dan Ige, he's fought the better competition by a mile. He's fought the Korean Zombie. He's fought Movsar Evloev. He's fought some very, very good guys. I get that. When he took a step down in competition against, he's fought Josh Emmett too as well. When he took a big step down in competition against Damon Jackson, he handled him accordingly. He went out there, he knocked him out in the second round. Looked very good in the first. In the second, he was getting out-volumed by Damon Jackson, which was not a good look, but ended up knocking out Damon Jackson. This fight, stylistically, I feel like could play out very competitively. Nate Landwehr, he's going to be the higher volume guy, and I think Dan Ige is a lot more skilled than Landwehr, but like Blake Bilder, and we talked about, I mean, Nate Landwehr is a guy that just has that dog in him. This is a guy that may not be the most skilled fighter, but he's going to go out there, he's going to fight for your money, he's going to fight hard, he's going to push a pace, he's going to make it a fun and exciting fight, he's going to throw a ton of volume. Nate Landwehr's landing 6.47 significant strikes per minute compared to Dan Ige, who's landing 3.8. So Dan Ige is fairly low volume, whereas Nate Landwehr, he's throwing a lot more. Dan Ige is I would say, more defensively sound than Nate Landwehr. Nate Landwehr is definitely somebody that is willing to eat one to give one, which you don't really like to see. Both these guys are tough as nails, but especially Dan Ige. Dan Ige is a guy that has 6 losses, and never been finished. Tough as nails. I believe he's a BJJ brown belt or black belt. Never been knocked out. This guy has fought some very hard hitters as well and just never been finished. So I don't see Nate Landwehr going out there and finishing Dan Ige. I don't think that's happening. If there is a finish in this fight, it probably is Dan Ige knocking out Nate Landwehr. But if this fight goes to decision, I just think it's going to be a back-and-forth war. I think it's going to be a fight that's very hard to judge. And I also think that Nate Landwehr, although not a high-level wrestler like who's some of the guys that took down Dan Ige, Movsar Evloev, Mirsad Bektic. He's not even the Korean Zombie who doesn't wrestle but is a good wrestler. He's not one of those guys, but, Dan Ige, he can't be taken down. 52% takedown defense. Nate Landwehr completing takedowns at a 62% accuracy. I could see, Nate Landwehr landing a takedown here or there, winning minutes on the mat a little bit, getting on top a little bit. So I think it's a close competitive fight. I think Dan Ige is the more skilled fighter. But sometimes the more skilled fighter doesn't always win the fight. I'm going to say Nate Landwehr edges out a very, very close competitive decision here. But this should be a back-and-forth war. It should be a very fun fight. And like I said, if the Dariush Oliveira fight was not on the card, this would be my pick for fight of the night. Give me Nate Landwehr to go out there and win this fight by decision. All right, moving on. We have Marc-Andre Barrio going against Eryk Anders. We got Barrio, 33 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach, 15-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Eryk Anders, 36 years old, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach, 15-7 and 2-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Marc-Andre Barrio opened up -150, currently -135. Eryk Anders opened up +130, currently +115. So Marc-Andre Barrio is a fighter that I do like a lot. He's another Canadian, which is something to mention because this fight is probably going to decision. Both these guys are just very, very tough, hard to knock out. So yeah, I think this fight does go the distance. So if it's a close fight, like I said, it probably goes to Barrio, which I do like. But I don't think this fight's going to be that close, to be honest. I think this fight is going to look a little bit like the Eryk Anders Jung Young Park fight, where Eryk Anders went in that fight and he attempted a crazy amount of takedowns. Like Eryk Anders, I think it was like 24 takedowns. Let me see. So Eryk Anders went out there and he attempted 24 takedowns. 24 takedowns. He only got 3. And when he did get a takedown, he wasn't able to control Jung Young Park. So I kind of feel like Eryk Anders is going to come in here with that same exact game plan because you can't really go out there and try to outpace someone like Marc-Andre Barrio, especially if you're Anders, who just doesn't really do that. I mean, Eryk Anders is a guy that he hits hard, but he's low volume. Marc-Andre Barrio is very high volume. Marc-Andre Barrio is landing almost 6 significant strikes per minute, whereas Anders it's 3.39. So on the feet, it's going to be Marc-Andre Barrio who's going to be pressing forward, landing a lot more. And he's able to I don't see Anders knocking him out, nothing like that. So the clear minute winner on the feet is going to be Barrio. So I think Eryk Anders is going to be forced to wrestle. And I don't see that working. I mean, we've seen people take down Marc-Andre Barrio in the past to control him a little bit, but I don't think Eryk Anders has the ability to control really anybody, let alone Marc-Andre Barrio. And I don't really think he's going to go out there and take him down and win minutes on top. So I think Eryk Anders will try to wrestle. I think that's only going to get him tired. And you don't want to get tired against a guy like Marc-Andre Barrio. We saw what happened when somebody got tired against him in the Marquez fight. Barrio just put it on him, didn't let him off the hook and got him out of there. I don't think he gets Anders out of there. But I do think Barrio does take over as the fight goes on, really starts to put it on him, and wins the second and third round here. I think Anders could potentially win the first, via wrestling, controlling against the cage, all that stuff. But I doubt Anders is able to go in there for a full 15 minutes and be able to implement that game plan and have success doing so. So I'm going to take Marc-Andre Barrio to win this fight. Give me Marc-Andre Barrio by decision. All right, time for the people's main event, my main event. I mean, this is, I wish this was 5 rounds. This is a phenomenal fight. Beneil Dariush going against Charles Oliveira. It doesn't get much better than this. We have Beneil Dariush, who is 34 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 22-4-1 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Charles Oliveira, 33 years old, 5'10", with a 74-inch reach, 33-9 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Let's talk some odds here. Beneil Dariush opened up -125, currently -115. Charles Oliveira opened up +105, currently -104. Very closely lined fight here. So I'm a big fan of both these guys, especially Charles Oliveira. It's great to see what Charles Oliveira has done throughout his career. He's a guy that, I don't know, a lot of people wrote off at first. A lot of people, the whole narrative of, he's a quitter. He can't battle adversity. When the going gets tough, he looks for a way out. And then he's going out there and getting dropped by Michael Chandler in the first round, almost finished. Getting dropped by Dustin Poirier. Getting dropped like 3 times against Justin Gaethje. And he's able to come back in all of those fights and get a finish in his own right, battling adversity, getting hurt, coming right back and getting a finish himself. I mean, it's something that, he kind of killed the narrative of that he is a quitter. I don't think he's a quitter. And then he went out there against Islam Makhachev, and he got dropped and he got subbed right away, which, no shame in that, I'd say. But, this is a matchup with Oliveira. I feel like it's a tough one because Oliveira isn't taking down Beneil Dariush. Oliveira is not really taking down anybody. And we'll see oftentimes Oliveira will pull guard. He pulled guard against Gaethje. He even pulled guard against Islam, which I thought was very, very interesting. Is he going to pull guard against Beneil Dariush? I don't think that's the best idea. Dariush is like a third-degree black belt in BJJ. But yeah, Oliveira is not taking down Dariush. It's not happening. Oliveira doesn't have the wrestling to do so, and Dariush has phenomenal takedown defense. So Dariush is going to be able to dictate where this fight takes place. If Dariush wants to take down Oliveira, he can do it. I mean, Oliveira is going to welcome him to the mat. So if he wants to do it, he can. If he wants to go out there and strike with Oliveira, he can. I think somebody's getting knocked out here. I've always questioned the durability about both guys. Beneil Dariush, he has been knocked out several times. He has been hurt several times. But I think his durability is a little bit better than Charles Oliveira at this stage. Like Charles Oliveira, you go and watch his fight, like any fight in like the last couple years. I mean, he's getting dropped in every fight. I mean, he's getting dropped several times in a lot of fights. So I really worry about the chin of Oliveira. And I was watching Beneil Dariush versus Mateusz Gamrot, and Beneil Dariush landed this big shot in the 3rd round, like massive shot that would have knocked out 95% of the lightweight division against Gamrot. I mean, you could hear. I mean, it was a hard shot. If he lands that same shot against Charles Oliveira, I guarantee you, he is not getting back up. Beneil Dariush hits like a truck, and he has the grappling to go along with it. So I kind of feel like it's a tough matchup for Oliveira, but with that said, you can never count out a guy like Charles Oliveira, who's so dangerous wherever the fight goes, who's dangerous on the feet, who can hit hard. Charles Oliveira hits hard as well. And we have seen Beneil Dariush's chin get cracked more times than not. So I think it's a closely lined fight for a reason. I lean Beneil Dariush. I think it's a good fight for him. But again, you can never, ever count out somebody that is as dangerous as Charles Oliveira. Oliveira is one of the most dangerous guys in the UFC, pound for pound. I mean, this guy is so dangerous. But I'll take Dariush to go out there. I think he knocks down Charles Oliveira, gets on top and subs him. I think a TKO is in play, but I think he does finish Charles Oliveira, and I think it's early as well. Give me Beneil Dariush to finish this fight in the very first round. All right, moving on to the main event. If you guys have not already, first, leave a like, and then second, comment down the significant strikes for Amanda Nunes, Irene Aldana. So let's kick it off with Amanda Nunes. She's 35 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach, 22-5 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Irene Aldana, 35 years old, 5'9" with a 68.5-inch reach, 14-6 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Nunes, the biggest favorite on the card, opened up -600. Currently -300. Aldana opening up +425, currently +240. And I know people get mad whenever you give your opinion, and I'm going to do it anyway. Like, my opinion on this fight is I could honestly care less about this main event, and which is weird to say because I'm a huge Amanda Nunes fan. Like, she is my favorite WMMA fighter. Big fan of Nunes. I wasn't even looking forward to the Pena fight, really, but I was looking forward to the Pena fight more than this one, to be honest. A lot of people are going to be picking Aldana this week. A lot of people are going to be betting Aldana this week, and I think they're not betting on Aldana for her skills, because skill for skill, Nunes is the better fighter, and it's not even debatable. It's not even close. I think people are just going to try to fade Amanda Nunes. They're going to try to get in there at the right time. Is she done? Is she washed? And I don't know, she kind of looked done in the first Pena fight, right? I mean, she had to battle some adversity, and it looks like she kind of quit in there. Pena subbed her. I don't think any hooks in. It was a bad look. And then she kind of went out there and reminded everybody that she is the best of the best. And went out there and just destroyed Juliana Pena. It wasn't even close. Multiple 10-8 rounds. It was hard to watch, even. Irene Aldana, I mean, what is she gonna do in this matchup? I mean, I guess if Amanda Nunes hasn't been training, or if she's not taking this fight serious, I guess she can win, just because of that. But Irene Aldana, I mean, she was struggling with Macy Chiasson just her last fight. She got her back taken by Macy Chiasson. Chiasson was getting into mount. Like, I was watching that fight back last night, and the announcers were talking about Chiasson potentially getting a 10-8. Like, Macy Chiasson is 10-8ing you, and you're going to beat Amanda Nunes. Like, come on. She beats Yana Santos. Anytime she's fought somebody of note, she loses. She got smoked by Holly Holm. She lost to Raquel Pennington. She lost to Caitlin Chukagian. I mean, look at her wins. Talita Bernardo, Lucy Pudilova, Betch Correa, Vanessa Mello, Yana Santos, Macy Chiasson. Her best win is Ketlin Veer. I'll give her that, but every other win just doesn't do anything for me. So Aldana's path to victory is Nunes not giving a crap. And quite frankly, even if Nunes doesn't give a crap, I think she still probably goes in here and finishes this fight and does it pretty early. I mean, if you're getting your back taken by Macy Chiasson, you're going to have a very bad time if Nunes gets on top of you. And I think she finishes the fight shortly after. But that's something we're going to have to worry about with Nunes, going forward. And until she retires, which I think is coming up fairly soon. I think she is close to the end of her career. We're going to have to worry about the motivation. We're going to have to worry about, the training camp. Is she taking this serious? She's having a kid. I think she's having another kid as well. I think she's going to have another kid. If she's getting up there in age. I mean, these are all things we're going to have to worry about going forward. But even a Amanda Nunes who is not all the way in, I think wins this fight. So give me Nunes to win it. Obviously, you probably don't want to bet Amanda Nunes. I'm done betting Amanda Nunes going forward. Just no reason to lay it, because there's always going to be a big price tag. And laying a big price tag on someone who potentially isn't taking it as serious as you'd like is something I really don't want to do. But at the same time, I'm not betting Irene Aldana, who I think, quite frankly, I mean, I just don't see how she wins this fight outside of Nunes just not giving a crap at all. So, which I guess could happen, but give me Nunes to finish Aldana. I think it comes in the very first round, and I'll say it's by submission. So, there we have it. Solid card. Like, I'm liking this card. I think it's a big step up from some of these Apex cards. Definitely looking forward to it. If you guys can, on your way out, smash the like button. Let's get those likes up. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Check out DFS by the numbers if you have not already. I'm going to be getting out some very, very early content this week. I'm going on a cruise, trying to get everything out, and I'll also be starting on UFC Vegas 75, getting that out early as well. So it's going to be a grind. It's going to be a very big grind, but I want to kind of enjoy my cruise there. So putting in a ton of work here, getting out some early content. Best of luck for UFC 289. Enjoy the card, and we'll talk to you guys very soon. See you guys later.